Okay guys, so today I just wanted to have a quick look at the NC750X and the new Honda Transalp, see how they compare and see if the Transalp is a good upgrade to the good old NC. Let's take a look. Okay guys, well I'm fighting the weather a bit today, so bear with me if I start having to refer to soggy notes. The idea today is to look at the NC750X and how it compares to the Transalp. Is the Transalp a good upgrade, if you like, if you're looking to change? Well, first off, the NC750X we all know is a great bike, and most of us feel that it's got enough power, it does what it says on the tin, and there's no reason to change. But some people buy it and say, you know what, it would be nice to upgrade, have a little bit more power, perhaps for the faster trips, and therefore is something like the Transalp a good option. Well, let's take a look. We'll run through the specs and see how they compare first of all. So the latest NC has around 58 horsepower, and obviously if you haven't already checked, the Transalp has 91 horsepower. So roughly 57% more power, quite a lot. It's only got around 10% more torque. And as far as the engine characteristics goes, they couldn't really be more different. So rather than thinking this is a bigger engine just because the power's more, I think it's better to think of it as something like an NC but with like a load more power stacked on top, because it pulls well from low down but probably not quite as smoothly as the NC right at the bottom of the rev range. It is a little bit fussy right off idle, whereas the NC will just pull like a train. The Transalp needs at least 2,000 revs on it before it sort of sorts itself out, and then it pulls okay. It pulls well enough to be useful, it's not a problem. And then higher up the rev range it really gets into its own, and if you like a bit more of a peppy engine, say like an MT-07, you're going to love the engine on the Transalp. Top speeds, for what it's worth, as we said before, is around 115 on the NC, probably only another 10 miles an hour, 125, maybe 130 on the Transalp, but it's pretty immaterial once you get up to those speeds, let's be honest. Fuel consumption is a bit different. 85 I reckon is a fair average on here, probably around 65 from what I can make out on the Transalp, and that's still not to be sniffed at because the tank is a little bit bigger at 17 litres than the 14 on the NC, so the range is about the same. I reckon the range is about 230, 240 miles if you're going easy, so between petrol stops, nothing much to choose between them. As far as the weight goes, the weight of the NCs has varied over the years depending on whether you get the DCT or the manual, and whether you go for the later ones which are a little bit lighter. The Transalp comes in at 208 kilos, so it is a little bit lighter than most of the NCs, or all the NCs in fairness, especially the DCTs. It doesn't feel that much lighter just pushing it around the drive in fairness, but if you're out and about, then the actual how it handles, it just feels a little bit lighter on its feet than the NC. As far as the seating goes, the seat is a little bit higher, it's 850mm, and I think the latest, this isn't the latest NC, but the latest one, if you're comparing two new bikes, is around 800 on the NC, because they've obviously lowered it, so it's more like the S now. So the seat will be a little bit higher if we're used to a new NC on the Transalp. But it is cut down, and I can certainly flat-foot it with a bend in my knee, and I am 6'2", admittedly. The only thing you might want to check is you're okay throwing your leg over the back, because the seat is cut quite down on the Transalp, so it kicks up at the back with the pillion seat and the rack, and you might want to just check you can easily throw a leg over it. But once you're on, it's a lovely place to be. The seat is much better, I dare say, than the NC, much more comfortable, and they hopefully have learnt their lessons from the rather poor seat on the NC. So other differences, obviously you've got the 21-inch front wheel as opposed to the 17, I had to check, on the Transalp, so it does steer a little bit differently. It is perfectly fine on the road. It's great for off-road, being 21-inch obviously, but it's fine on the road. This has Karoo tyres on it from Metzer, and they're great. It is a little bit slower steering, but it's perfectly stable, and not really much to choose apart between the two in that regard. The brakes are better on the Transalp. Obviously you've got the twin disc, and that's always, I think, been one of the weaknesses on the NC, the fact it's got this single disc, which isn't great. So twin disc upgrade and the better shower suspension on the Transalp really shows where the extra money goes. Okay, so what are the sort of relative pros and cons, if you like? What are the advantages of sticking with the NC, for example? Well, I think it's cheaper. Obviously, quite a significant amount. The NC currently I think is 7,950. and it's around 9.7, so it's a big difference in price between the two bikes. 9.7 for the Transalp. So it's significantly cheaper, it's easier going, it's a softer engine, it's a much more relaxed engine. If you just want to duff around, I call it a bit of a hangover bike. If you've got a bit of a hangover, you just want to get somewhere, the NC's brilliant. You can just, whether it's DCT or manual, it just effortlessly just duffs away the old engine, and it will get you where you want to be with no fuss and easy going as you like. The Africa Twin, the Transalp is not a fussy engine, but it's a little bit more typical motorcycle. So it needs a little bit, few revs on the on the gauge before it pulls away, and it doesn't really like running sort of really low down the river. It does start to sort of get a bit off a very nearly closed throttle. It does get a bit twitchy, and that can be a bit tiring after a while. But if you want excitement, if you want something that's a bit more fun, where this is great and it's versatile and it's workmanlike, this is fun. And I think that's probably the easiest way to sum them up. Totally worthy, totally great what you want it to do. A great blast on a Sunday morning, or if you want to have a lot of fun on a tour. Is this good if you're not really in the mood? Yeah, it'll still do the job, but it's probably, this is a bit more relaxing to ride if you're not really in the mood, you just want to get somewhere and you're not in a rush and you don't need to be excited by the journey. So if you want more power, if you want a better seat, if you want better suspension, if you want better brakes, then the Transalp is the one to go for. It's a big uplift in power. There's a lot more fun involved in this. Really, it comes down to whether the NC is enough for you, or whether you want this additional fun factor in here, because if you do, there's a price associated with it. So I don't think either bike wins really, it just depends what your priorities are. Okay guys, well I hope that helps. If there's any questions, if you want any comparisons or any information about either of the two bikes, drop a comment down to know. If you like the video, if it's been helpful, then obviously like and subscribe to the channel if you feel sorry for me standing out in the pouring rain today doing this video. Okay, I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.